Then I became a single dad of my 3 boys and raised them for 7 years by myself, which I would not change ever.
Steve Kowalski.
How you doing?
Good, man. It's good to see you.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to be here, actually.
Awesome.
It's going to be great.
I'm really glad you did come to sit down today, because I really wanted to just kind of talk about what it is that you do and how what you do affects the business community, right? Because, you have one of those services that basically everybody has to have one way or another.
Correct.
Somebody's got to pay the payroll of all the people who work in the businesses.
True.
So let's start from there a little bit. What got you into payroll in the first place?
I've been in the payroll business for about 20 years now, and basically got there through friends. I had friends that worked at a large payroll company, and dealing with them and doing community involvement with them. Eventually I said I like the fact of the smaller businesses, getting to know them, getting to see them grow, and then also have the bigger businesses that you could see how they went from starting to being big and huge. So it was exciting. But then as time went, I noticed there was things missing. And that's how Entrust Payroll Solutions came about. One of the things we realized that clients that were using these bigger payroll companies, it wasn't about the money, it was more about the service. And they weren't getting return calls. They'd call, be on hold for an hour. They felt like an account number, and that's all it was. So what we tried to do was take it from the large company and then looking at the total online company and find a spot in between that we would fit to be able to keep it cost effective, but give them the service that they deserve.
There you go. And that's a tightrope you're walking there. Yeah. So, so you've been here for 20 years. 20
years, just about 20 years, yeah.
And before that, what did you do?
Before I was in the payroll business, I worked for AT&T corporate sales. Was there for 14 years. So I've been pretty much corporate my whole life, which also made me look at things after a while that it's corporate, but I want to get more involved with the community. And since we started Entrust Payroll Solutions, we've gone to our clients in 21 states. We try to keep everything local where they're at. We do a lot of volunteer work locally here in Florida, but we also support a lot of communities outside of the state. So that was important to us. It grew very fast, which we were not, expecting. COVID was actually very good for us. Everything was by Zoom. So instead of having 2 or 3 appointments a day, you could have 8. So it made it real well. And then once the people started seeing the service they received, it grew even faster.
A little bit of word of mouth thing going on there.
Majority of our business is referrals, and we get a lot of business just from that, where they talk. And you'd be surprised how many people know other businesses in different states. So before you know it, it grew faster than we thought, but we'll accept it. And we're looking to grow continue to grow and provide that level of service. We get to know our clients. They each have their own dedicated payroll specialist. And the nice thing that people usually say about us, when they call our office, no matter where they call, a human being in the States answers the phone. So they're not getting jumped around. We reply to them. All calls get returned by the end of the day, all emails as well, so that we make sure they don't have to worry. Communication is key, I think, to any business.
Absolutely. And you mentioned local a little earlier, and how it's important to you to keep that local presence going. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing in Florida that is related to that that local feel we're trying to stay.
We do a lot with kids. We sponsor a lot of sports teams. I always get scared of saying that because now my phone will ring off the hook from every sports thing out there. But we do a lot. Blessings in a Backpack. We work with them. Like I said, we do a lot with communities. We support a lot of schools, and we give a lot back to schools that we work with. We just always felt the kids, they get left out sometimes. So we're always looking at different organizations to work with, and we'll sponsor them or support them however we can.
You actually mentioned that recently, that you are especially looking for schools because you have a special program.
Correct. We give them extra discounts, and we will support them or get them involved with other organizations to help not just the school and daycare, but the kids themselves.
Beyond those things and beyond the local help, how are you looking at putting that into your national program?
Well, I think we're trying to look at different organizations that are not just in Florida. One of the things we like when we look at where we're going to put our budget for sponsorships and support, for example, in Fort Myers or Lee County, it goes to Fort Myers and Lee County. So that's what we've been looking at in different states of how we could help the local, charities that are there. I don't have anything against the big ones, but it is nice to get your hands in there and really work with them and see the people you're going to impact.
Especially when you're focusing on trying to keep your impact
correct
within your community.
Absolutely.
Make sure they do the same.
Correct.
Very cool. So let's go a little further afield now. So in payroll, you deal with a lot of different types of companies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So how do you help any particular company, or you have a niche that you like more than others that you can address better than others?
We look at it as far as the niche, we look at it per state. Like for example, Florida, about 85% of the people need workers' comp. So that's something with the trades. So that's where we got to really dig in and make sure we get them what they need and keep them compliant. But we also try to intertwine them. So for example, if you have a carpenter, hey, here's a cabinet guy you might need. We try to get them in touch with each other so that they can support each other and be there when, times change, markets change. Then we have obviously the professional clients that we have, or medical, same thing, they're big. A lot of them start off, not knowing what they need. And, it's important that we keep them compliant. That's where our HR comes into, effect, so we can help them with like their handbooks, keeping them out of trouble, keeping their employees happy, because in today's world, finding good employees are tough. So you want to make sure you keep that morale up and your culture and your company is good. So we try to help with that wherever we can.
Very neat. What other kind of services do you offer?
When we set up Entrust Payroll Solutions, we set it up to mirror the large companies when it came to services. So you've got full HR, where they could speak to somebody, email them, get all their answers done. They could store videos, they can have training sessions through that, basically like a managed payroll. We also do the background checks, drug testing, all the services that you need from start to finish so that you don't have to worry about it. You focus on your business, we'll help you and walk you through the rest. But one of the things we don't do is put them into something that they don't need at that point, because we see that a lot with the larger companies. If they don't need those services, we'll pull them back. And when they're ready for them, like time management, we'll be there for them and we'll help them with that. So we want to scale it as they grow and not just put them in a bucket that they're going to be absorbed with paying a lot of money and not really using those services anyway.
So it makes sense that as a small business owner, you don't have extra money
No.
to spend on those things.
Even the big guys don't have extra money. They might have it, but they don't want to spend it. So, and I can't blame them for not wanting to spend something that they don't need.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little about Steve, the family man.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit more about you as Steve, as a person.
Okay. Well, I grew up in New Jersey. Been down here since 1989. So my kids were born here. They don't know, they've been to New Jersey, but they never lived there. Grew up with my mother, 2 sisters, my grandmother, and then moved down here in 89. And I'll be honest, I was shell-shocked. Coming from the city in New Jersey down here in 89, it was a change and it was different. But I came down with the sales that I had from up there. So it grew very quick. I got comfortable very fast. There was a lot of opportunities here in the late 80s, and there still are. It was much more cost effective here in the 80s, but fell in love with it. And but then I became a single dad of my 3 boys and raised them for 7 years by myself, which I would not change ever. I got to spend so much time with them and see so many things of them growing up that I don't know if I'd see if I didn't have them by myself. And at that time then, I met my wife, Dina. She had 2 boys, so we had 5 total. And now they're all out of the house. You know, we've got one in Brooklyn. We've got one in Cape Coral here. He's our youngest. And then we have one in the Marines and one in the Army. So we're proud of all of them. And then we have our granddaughter. So, which she's my apple of my eye. So she'll get whatever she wants whenever she wants it. But yeah, it's been, being here has helped a lot. You go through changes, you go through problems, but to me, it's the choices you make of how to get through those. I could either feel bad for myself, or I could say, hey, we just got to get through this and make it work. And I kind of do that with the company as well, you know, because let's face it, business owners, they get hit with things all day. And it's not my client's responsibility to see when, you know, we're having an issue with something. It's our responsibility to make sure things are running right for that client. You know, they're not our sounding board, I guess you could say, and it's helped us real well. Helped with not just our clients, but our employees. You know, they love what they do. We keep them happy. My wife recently joined us. She was teaching for 28 years. She retired from there, came on board in our tax department, and she loves it. You know, so she's getting to know the business a little bit more. She runs a lot of the situations or the different products or paperwork that I don't like to do, so it's worked out well. You know, a lot of people concerned, you know, you work with your wife, I don't know how that's gonna work, but we do totally different things at the office, so it's done real well for us.
Excellent. Yeah, that's where I was headed next. I wanted to know a little bit more about how you handle being the owner, the you know, the boss.
Well, you know, sometimes I have a different mindset than maybe the employees have, because obviously we have some clients that can drive you crazy, but they're all clients. And you know, we try to start, or what I try to teach them is start with curious. You don't know what that client's going through that day. They might be upset at something else. They're not upset with you. So you want to take a step back, put yourself in their shoes, and go, okay, let's fix, you know, or look at what the situation is. And a lot of times they see that it's nothing we did or didn't do. They're just frustrated. An employee might come to them with a question, they look at it the wrong way, and then once we look at the situation, we're like, oh, that makes sense, you guys are great. So, you know, it's starting with that curious spot, because like I said, business owners, they go through a lot all day, and sometimes they'll take it out on whoever they can. But they're clients, they're all good. We get to know them, so you get to know some of what they're going through at certain times, and it makes it a little easier for us to be there for them and not just run their payroll.
I think to kind of put a bow on this, let's talk a little bit about what is the hardest thing from running a payroll business? What's the thing that makes it the challenge that you keep coming back to, that you've got to?
The challenges that we have is, and I don't know if it's a challenge, because to me it keeps you going. You know, you have to remember, probably about 63% of our clients pay weekly. So when they run payroll, let's say on Wednesday for Friday, 3 or 4 days after that, they're doing it again. So, you know, it's important that we keep them up with different things as they make changes. It's important that we explain to them, this is what we'll need on a timeline in order to get that done. And then it's very important, most important, to make sure that everything we do is correct. You want to, like I said earlier, you want to keep that morale up. You want to keep the pay correct. You don't want to have those situations. What we go by in our office is we shouldn't have situations with things we have control over. You know, if you check it a couple times, we're good. It's not just running a number through, and that's kind of like what the big boys do. It's a number, get it done, keep running it. One of the things that we did was, with our system, when we had it set up, it forces us to show and see when a client forgot to run payroll. When I was with a different company, it was one less thing they had to do. We make sure we call them, and it's always, oh, I forgot, thank you. Or they'll call us after hours, and we have capabilities to run payroll 24 hours a day. So it's important for it to be seamless for them.
And what's something that brings you the most joy in doing this work?
I love, you know, when you see, there's a couple things. One, when you see a company open up a second location, when you see them grow, when they've reached a certain level of where they wanted to. You don't, it's not about the payroll, it's about the people. Like for example, we have one client that he worked for his father, went out on his own when he was in his 20s. He'd call me every few days telling me how much business he did that day. And now he owns 2 places. It's that, and it's getting to know the people. We've been to baby showers, we've been to kids' birthdays, you know, and we've been there when, Steve, I'm fighting my wife, can you help me? You know, so they're more friends after a while. Now you can't do that with every client, but you want to get to know as much as you can about them so that when you deal with them, it comes across as that real person conversation. So that's what I like seeing the most.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And final question
Yeah.
for you. So what's one thing, if someone's brand new to starting their business, brand new to payroll, they don't know where to go, what sets Entrust as a difference?
Well, what we'll do is we'll sit down with them. We try to look at their business plan because that's going to help us build a timeline out even 2-3 years of what services they might need. Because if we don't discuss them at some point, they don't even realize we do it. And then they're frustrated or looking for it. So we try to look at how their process is going to be. And then we look at what they have for putting their company together. Did they get the right IDs? Do they have, you know, certain things for unemployment, HR, hiring, helping them with the interview process? We have a lot of documents that will help them walk through interviews so that we can actually help them even if they want us to go sit with them. So those are the things, making sure they're doing everything right, especially on the tax side, keeping them compliant so that they don't have to catch up on it later. And we want to show them all the different products that we could take off their hands and we can manage it for them. And we keep that really cost effective for them. But the biggest thing is just, again, looking at what do you want out of this business? Where do you see it 2-3 years from now? So that we know and put in the notes, start looking at this 6 months. And when you reach 20 employees, this is what we should probably look at. Or when you do revenue, you know, how much revenue you're looking for. Now we got to make sure you're not paying anything more than you need to. You know, you want to keep as much of that revenue as possible.
Steve Kowalski, thank you for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.